Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here this morning. Are we on? All right, yes. Thank you for being here this morning. I have a lot of updates for you. A couple of things have emerged over the last few weeks. I'm excited about being able to update you on these emerging issues. But first, let me thank all of you for just the tremendous work that you've done all year round. I think I've been really very impressed. I've been humbled. And especially more recently, when I walked in and saw that a number of you towards the end created videos and congratulatory messages for your graduates. You've been creating videos for our incoming students, welcoming them in the fall. And I'm very impressed by that. And I want to thank you all for taking the extra effort to make our students feel special as they are. If we haven't posted your video yet, we will put something up. If you send it to us, we'll put it in communique so that everyone can see the great work that everyone's done. I think we've been trying to capture most of them as they come through. Sometimes I get it directly, sometimes I see them indirectly. So if I haven't received that, I'm more than happy to make sure that we get it on communique so everyone can see it. The same thing with the minute for mental health. Very grateful for everyone to put that in, to put together these videos. They're very good. And I encourage those of you who haven't gone in to see any of them, please do. They're online. You can get them from the our website. And they're just like two, maybe 3 minutes long. If you have one that you might like to contribute, one that you might want to put up, please. We're going to continue to accept these. We've been putting them out in social media. We've been trying to work with the university to get a little more coverage on them. But I know it takes time, and I'm very grateful. But the content and the ones that have come in so far has just been outstanding. And so of tremendous value to a lot of people. So thank you so much. I really appreciate that. So let's get to some updates for you all. Now let's begin with the college. And let me say that just like the last time we talked, everyone is staying healthy. We've only, to the best of our knowledge, we've had one reported case of COVID-19 in a graduate student. And the anonymous faculty member that reported did end up testing positive. But that's all we've heard. Not that people have to report at this point in time, especially if they haven't been on campus. But some people have been at least letting us know that that they've been tested, they're not feeling well, etc. So I want to make sure that everyone knows that. The people are, again, they're staying healthy and staying out of the building, and that's really very important. If I know a number of you need to get into the building, I know that we're out longer than many of us thought we would be out, and that's fine. We can get you permission to go back into the building. It's really very simple to do. The only thing I would ask, though, is that when you put in a request to come on to get whatever it is that you need, please record afterwards any room that you entered, so that if indeed, God forbid, 5 days from the time that you were on campus, you should become ill, it's questionable, or you test positive, then we know exactly where to go back and clean. So this is, and it's something that when you walk into a building just to get your stuff, like I don't even know the number of my office. I think it's like 1110 or something like that. But I don't think about that. If I went to the restroom, I wouldn't even think about that. But I'm asking that you do think about that and record the rooms that you go into so that we know that we can go back again and clean those should anything occur. So let me talk a little bit about our facilities. So far, again, nobody, anybody who's been in the building that's tested positive, we've cleaned all those facilities. We've been having extra attention given to the facilities, and we're getting very quick response if we find anything that's problematic. The university has been very responsive to come in. To the best of my knowledge, they have not done a deep clean of the bathrooms, and I know that's a big issue. And we will get to that. I think I don't know what's going on exactly with that, but you should know that we are checking each room. We're going to begin every week or every 2 weeks. We're going to go into every room. Eric and Alberto will have masks on. They'll be wearing gloves. And the reason is that we know our buildings, some of our buildings leak. Over in criminology, that building has leaked before over Christmas holiday. We want to make sure there is no leakage. In MHC, we know that pipes burst and we don't even know about it sometimes. We've had pipes burst in the library after we vacated the library, and we didn't know about it because no one was down there for a number of weeks. So we're going to be checking every room. The other issues that we're facing are pests getting into our offices. And so far, everything has looked pretty good. If you had a candy dish out, that candy's probably gone by now. And the ants were the beneficiaries of those, of your treats. So they've been instructed to get rid of anything if you had. And again, we weren't thinking when we left our offices, about that we were going to be gone this long. And so if you left anything on your desk that may have been open, chips, pretzels, whatever, it won't be there when you get back. We have to eliminate all of those things just for everybody's well-being and making sure that we keep the premises as clean as we possibly can. So again, everyone will be protected. They're going to check the buildings maybe once every 1 or 2 weeks. Making sure that nothing's happened in your office, especially in those back rooms. Make sure nothing's happened back there, and make sure that everything stays clean. So yes. So if you do, one of the other issues that's come up is that if you do have to come into the building to pick things up, it's expected that you will be wearing as much protective clothing and material as possible, including a mask. This is, again, for your safety and the safety of everyone around you. It is expected that you would be doing that. We know that there have been some other university workers that have come into the building that haven't always been wearing masks. We're working on that. We're asking them to do so. But especially if you're going into your office, you want to take it off because you're in your office, that's fine. But when you go out into the common areas, please wear, it's expected that you'll be wearing a mask at that time. Let me stop there and just see if there's any questions around facilities. Patty?
I don't see any questions yet.
So
there is one question, sorry. If they have fridges in their office, sorry, that just disappeared.
Yeah, I think I saw the same question. If there's a fridge in your office, should you go and clean it out? I would say as long as we haven't lost power in the building, you're probably okay. You're going to come back and things are going to be as they're going to be. I don't think it's worth it to go in for refrigerated items unless we lose power for a significant period of time. And you will be notified if that does happen. It's the stuff that's sitting out that's becoming a problem for pests again, and rodents and ants and things like that. Good question. Anything else on the facilities?
That's it now, for now.
Terrific. All right. So let me give a big picture of what the university is doing around reopening the campus. Whether we start reopening the campus, where we're starting now in the health, our clinics in CSD are opening up, and so that process is already beginning. So, but the university is also taking a lot of precautions around this, and to getting in most of these buildings, you have to have a temperature check, you have to be wearing a mask, you have to have all kinds of other protective gear in place. In the long run, though, the university has taken a look at what's the best way for the University of South Florida to open up, hopefully, our classrooms in the fall. They have put together I'll call it a task force that is comprised of 8 different groups looking at things like our finances, the budget, looking at overall wellness, looking at housing, looking at community planning, looking at facilities and infrastructure, instruction and student support, IT, research, and public information and community outreach. Those committees have started their work, and each of them is tasked to focus on what do we need to do in those specific areas to have potentially a fall reopening. So right now, we just recently, luckily, Tim Boaz is a member of one of those in the instruction and student support, and he came and spoke with the chairs and school directors yesterday. So we can give you an update on at least what he had to say around teaching. But let me say that over the next few weeks, I'm hoping that each of those committees will begin releasing information around what's happening in those specific areas in terms of opening up. So they will be addressing things like, I know you have questions on things like wearing a mask, like will masks be required? If they are, who's going to provide them? If research, when can we kick up our research again? What do we need to do in terms of overall wellness? Will students be on campus? Will be they living on campus? And budget issues. I'll get to budget issues in a little bit, but let me talk primarily about the things that I think you're probably most interested in would be the teaching. And let me say there's a couple things that we got to update on that around. First of all, we're going to have to approach teaching in the fall in as a wide scope as we possibly can. Every permeation of how teaching could occur will be explored. And depending on the nature of the class, depending on the size of the class, depending on, again, graduate, undergraduate, different options are going to be available and going to be explored for those classes. A class of 200 is not going to sit down in the fall inside a building at the University of South Florida in the fall. That's just not going to happen. So what we're going to have to figure out, and the university is sitting down and looking at what kind of guidance do they need to give us in terms of how to handle that should those classes remain online. Probably so. Now that hasn't been decided, but I would say probably so. Smaller classes that require labs, that people have to do things, they are going to probably become very small. There's probably going to be multiple sections. There will be we will open those labs up. They're slowly doing that right now. And there will be spacing issues in terms of trying to get as many people without overburdening, making sure that everyone is taking precautions when they're in those situations, and then hopefully finding a way. I mean, those labs are difficult enough to get into, and even in our own, but hopefully finding the time and the ability. We may have to be doing some evening classes in terms of some of those in terms of labs. Other classes may be in person, but very spread out. We're looking at room configuration. They're going to be looking at how can we configure our rooms and what's the maximum capacity going to be in each of the rooms. Universities is taking a look at that. They're looking at issues such as in terms of hybrid teaching. How can we perhaps have a few students in the classroom and a few students remote? What rooms do we have that we could actually do that? What classes would be conducive to that? There's always going to be an understanding that that comfortability of the student, the comfortability of the faculty will be a priority. Your health and we know that people have underlying health conditions. We know people have small kids at home. We have aging parents at home. We know all these things are happening, and so we're going to have to find ways to make this as comfortable for everyone as possible. The university would like to say that it's opening up fully in the fall, but that we need to plan for alternative ways of teaching our classes. So let me just, again, stop here briefly and see if you have what questions that you have.
A couple of questions. What measures are going to be taken to ensure that upon our return, the buildings are kept clean and sterilized as much as possible, especially the bathrooms?
Yeah, so the bathrooms have been locked now for weeks. There's only 2 bathrooms in MHC that remain open. The rest have been locked for weeks. In the other buildings, I don't think they've locked them the same kind of way, but I would have to find out. And Lisa, would you write down questions that I don't have answers to, so that at the end, as soon as I can get some answers, I can put this out in an email to everybody?
Sure.
Thank you. I can say, though, that the buildings will be, they're being very attentive to the buildings as they are right now. They will be going in and cleaning them all before we get back in. And so, and some of these questions that I think you're probably going to get into may actually even be better answered by our president. It'd be nice if he was here. I don't know, President Currall, are you on the phone?
I am here, Dean Serovich. Yes, I have been for a couple of minutes.
Well, welcome. Welcome so much. We really appreciate you being here. Can we see if we can get the president up on the screen here? I don't know what people can see. But thank you for being here. We really appreciate it.
Well, delighted to be with the College of Community and College of Community and Behavioral Community Sciences. Sorry.
It's a mouthful.
CBCS.
Yes, I'm very proud that my college is the longest name in the university.
Yes, yeah. Well, a lot of work there is close to my heart because my background is as a behavioral scientist as well. So always fascinated to see the great accomplishments in the college, and I'm looking forward to visiting in person someday.
Excellent. We love that. We would love that. So could you just take a few minutes and address we have, I think last time I saw, about 200 faculty and staff logged in this morning?
Sure, I'd be delighted to. My first key message is to thank all of you for all of the amazing work that you're doing educationally, keeping our research enterprise going. And so my first message is just thanks and gratitude to all the work that you're doing, and also all of the public visibility. So Dean, I've really been proud of your faculty and your staff for being so visible and in commenting on issues relating to aging and community health and all those areas of expertise that you all are so strong in. And you've really been, the college community has really been delivering a lot of expertise to society and through the media outlets. So we're very grateful for that as well.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm proud of them as well.
Maybe I'll just say a little bit about how our deliberations are coming and how we're thinking about the autumn semester. You may know that prior to COVID-19, we had a very well-developed emergency management procedure and set of policies. Most of that was oriented towards more discrete events like a hurricane. So COVID-19 is not a hurricane. It doesn't come in and go away. It's going to be with us for a long time. So it presents some unusual puzzles to solve. So in the original structure that we have, there is a group called the Executive Policy Group. So I chair that group. It is all of my direct reports and a number of other folks, say in student success. The regional chancellors are also on that group. That is the group that's really tasked with the authority of making decisions about how to proceed on the basis, on behalf of the institution. So we also have a series of emergency operations centers. Those are led by Jen Fleischman, the director of our emergency management procedures. And so she does a terrific job with that. Now, what we've done in response to COVID-19 is set up an additional structure, which we're calling the COVID-19 Task Force. That is led by Dean Donna Peterson of the College of Public Health. And of course, she has a lot of expertise in areas such as infectious disease and pandemics, and her faculty do. So she's doing a terrific job for us. That task force has about 12 to 15 people on it from across the campus, including St. Pete and Sarasota. And so the job of the task force is to advise and present options and analysis to the executive policy group. Now, advising and contributing to the task force are a series of what we're calling recovery support functions, so RSFs. So there are 9 of these work groups that correspond to the general functions of the university, such as instruction and research, housing, other facilities, information technology, finance, community outreach, and so on. So there are 9 of these RSFs that are meeting on their own, and then the advice and analysis of those work groups goes into the task force, and then the task force advises the executive policy group. And so that's the basic skeleton of the structure of how we're making decisions in the best interest of the university. So I thought that might be helpful, Julie, just to give the group a sense of how we're making decisions. We're also mindful of timing. So there's an interesting balance here, because it's important that we make decisions promptly, especially about what to do about the autumn semester, and to what degree will we have in-person instruction and other in-person events on campus. So we're mindful of the timing of that, and yet at the same time, every day there are new developments. There are new developments scientifically and medically, new developments in terms of announcements by other institutions of higher education about what they're doing. There are issues relating to state budget, so those are fluid and emerging as well. So what we're trying to do is strike that right balance of being prompt and issuing decisions, taking positions as we need to, especially for our continuing students and our prospective students and their families. And yet at the same time, not making premature decisions. So we've seen some universities make announcements that I think are premature. I think coming out and saying that a university is going to commit to an in-person instruction versus online instruction for August, beginning in August and September, I think is premature. So we're not prepared to do that yet. So we're trying to strike that balance of the need to address many questions that our stakeholders have, and yet not making a premature decision. So Julie, maybe I'll just stop there and invite any comments or questions from the group.
Great. Any specific questions for the president? I know the other thing that you might just address, and I know that we don't have answers to this either, but budget information. I know this is another big black hole. Could you just say what you know in that arena?
Absolutely. So we're doing a lot of preparing and analysis to make decisions in the background. And so I was just sharing with you a minute ago about the COVID-19 task force and the RSF work groups. And this also applies to budget. So David Lechner and Nick Trivunovich and their team are doing a lot of analysis and modeling, and essentially what we're orienting toward is an analysis that can help us understand our responsibilities for how to maintain the financial viability of the university. For example, how much reserves do we have to have in place? And so we're analyzing that. That's a crucial question about reserves. And so we're looking at other universities, we're looking at our own financial position, and we'll be making some decisions about that over the next several weeks. Now, once we hit a target in terms of our financial reserves and our liquidity, then we work back and then try to understand what does that require with respect to revenues. Of course, that then has implications for what we do in the fall, because what we do in the fall is primarily a function of health and safety of our faculty, staff, and students. But it's not only that, it's also a function of revenue generation and ensuring that we maintain the financial viability of the university. And so we're looking at what is that liquidity and reserve target, and working back, what kind of revenue do we have to have, and what kind of sacrifices are we going to have to make in terms of expenditures. So what we now have is a draft set of models that illustrate where the expenditures are, where existing reserves exist, and how we can orient those, and how we can actually not just reduce expenses for the sake of reducing expenses, but how can we advance the academic mission of the university in a way that also allows us to be responsible in terms of financial resources. So those are some of the considerations that we're modeling right now, which will then inform us and equip us to make even more responsible stewardship decisions over the next really 4 to 8 weeks. Really by July. In July, we will have had to make a number of decisions, and I'm not saying all financial decisions, but we'll need a trajectory to be on by really around early July or mid-July.
Thank you for that. I appreciate that. And I know your time is limited with us this morning, and I'm very grateful that you joined in. Let me just ask one more question. Sure. I think this is on the minds of a lot of the faculty. What do you think that's the same or similar timeline that some of these other decisions will be made in terms of how we open and how we will be functioning in the fall? Do you think July may be around the time that those decisions may have to be made, or?
We're saying mid-July.
Okay.
I would expect, Julie, that would be an outside limit. If we feel like we're informed and equipped to make a decision before then, but I'm saying mid-July we would have to make some commitments about the extent to which, and again, I'm saying the extent to which we return to in-person instruction and in-person on-campus activities. I think it's not so much a question of whether or not to reintroduce some form of in-person instruction. It's a question of how. I hope that we're not required to remain completely reliant on remote instruction in the autumn. And I've been on the record saying this already, we're very much intending to return in some form, perhaps phases, some form of in-person instruction in the autumn. But again, as I said a minute ago, we are digesting the information that's coming out at a very rapid pace.
Terrific. I know there's so many unknowns. We don't know what kind of twists and turns are going to happen with reopening the economy. We hope that it won't result in a resurgence, but all those things still, and how many testing and all that stuff. I know it still plays a role, but I think that at least gives people some idea. And I assume that'll be communicated pretty broadly then whenever these decisions are made to faculty and staff.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And we'll be consulting with the deans as we're going along. So our deans are our partners, and so it's not like you won't be just notified. You'll be a partner in these decisions as well. So we'll look forward to your voice, Julie.
Well, President Currall, thank you so much for taking the time to be with the college this morning. I really appreciate that. I know your time is valuable and you're busy, but really appreciate you popping in. Be well, and hopefully I'll see you soon.
And to you too. Again, I look forward to visiting the college in person as soon as possible.
We look forward to having you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay. So I have no idea where I was, so I'm going to go to questions at this point.
Yeah, we have a lot of questions. I think President Currall addressed some of them, but there's still quite a few.
Okay.
So someone asked about getting a refund for our current parking passes that we haven't used.
Yeah, that was an SUS decision to not do that for this year, and I was not a part of that decision. But it was made, and it was made at a higher level than the university. So none of the state university system universities are giving money back for parking.
Another question about people who don't teach and about when they will be allowed to resume working in their office.
Good question. And right now, I don't know. And I'm hoping that once these committees start putting out some guidance, that will be a part of that guidance. Like I said, already health people are back. You know, I know they're gradually moving people back onto campus, but in terms of just general staff, I don't know yet when that decision will be made, or if it'll even be allowed to be made by the deans. Which I doubt, but I don't know. Good question, though.
A couple questions.
Again, we're keeping track of these. I'm keeping track of these, and so I'm going to do my best to get some information to you all. Hopefully, most of the information will come right to you, but we'll keep track. Good, Patty. I'm sorry.
People have asked about whether or not they would be able to continue to work from home or have that option to do so, even if the campus reopens.
So again, guidance should be provided by the university in that regard. And on how those decisions should be made. But we don't have that guidance yet on how the decision should be made.
Another question about, will temperature checks be required, and about flu shots? Do we know when those will be available?
So the facilities is dealing with all kinds of issues around access. And that's also a part of that in terms of, will people have to have fever checks and things like that, and I don't know. Flu shots are a matter of the state, and so whenever the state gets them to the university, I'm assuming, and that's the regular flu shot, I'm assuming you'll be notified like you have in other years. So that, to the best of my knowledge, that should occur typically early fall.
One faculty member asked about a class where he has over 60 students. There's an online version. Should he start considering the hybrid class as an option for the fall?
It's not a bad consideration. It's not a bad consideration. The issue with the hybrid is going to be, again, what kind of facilities do we have? And so if you have a class of 60, you'd have to have a pretty big classroom if you're going to have 30 in the class, or even 50, even 20 in the class, and then the rest remote. But that's going to be all a part of, again, the facilities committee and what the guidance that they provide for the university. But I don't think it's a bad thing to consider it.
Who will be the ultimate decision maker about how each course will be taught?
Well, I think I would like it to be the instructor, but I don't know who will be the ultimate. I mean, that's another great question. It's probably going to be something, joint with your chair once we get the overall guidance from the university on what's permissible, what we can do and we can't do. I'd imagine that you'll sit down with your chair and negotiate that and figure out what is the best way of doing that. But unless the university puts out strict guidelines and this is okay, if it's X number or above, it must be online. Then the university made the decision. So, and if it's a lab, it has to be, obviously, on campus, and provisions would have to be made to accommodate. Other than those kinds of scenarios, I would hope that it's at least a conversation between you and the chair, but we have to wait and see what guidance comes out from the university. Any other questions there, Patty, or?
Yes, sorry. If someone goes into the office to grab a few things, do they have to wear masks and submit to temperature checks?
There are no, we do not have the capacity to temperature check outside of the CSD building. That's the only building that has the capacity to do that. Only thing we're asking is that you do wear a mask and you record how you entered the facility and what rooms you occupied and how you exited the facility. That's what we're asking, for you to record that and provide that to your chair, who will keep that with Stefan or whatever. And then again, if you do become ill and you come on campus, you really need to let us know, so that the reason here is to go back and clean those, have them professionally cleaned. So that's why we're being pretty vigilant around this. So the responsibility then is, if you come on campus, that you protect yourself, you protect others, but then if you become ill later, the responsibility is to inform us so we can go back in and take care of anywhere that you've been.
A question about students and the extra fees that they're being charged despite the campus remaining closed. Is it fair to charge students the distance learning fee when they really don't have a choice but have to take the online classes?
So overall fees are going down for the summer, including distance. So there's a number of them that are going down, and that's been negotiated out. Students should see that almost already in their tuition bill for summer. I don't know, I don't have the specifics on that. I do know that a committee was formed and completed its work about 3 weeks ago on this, where the decision was made to reduce like athletic fees and all kinds of fees. But some of them, what people don't understand is that it's expensive to run some of these classes online, to convert them, to do, and then to have the and to run them. So it requires a faculty member, just like an in-person. So those are decisions not made. Those decisions have been made by the university, and students should see them in their bill for the summer.
Since many of our programs are community-based, do we have an idea of when we can return to our work in the community?
Much of that is going to have to do with what your community-based agency is comfortable with. And so we encourage you to work with them closely to see what they're comfortable with, what their guidelines are going to be. When we go into their space, we're working with them, we're going to have to adhere. I don't know where community organizations or the ones that you work with are at. I would encourage you, though, if you're eager to get back in there, to talk with them and see what decisions they've made around access beyond their own people.
Another question, could we explore alternative teaching approaches like teaching outside in the courtyards or other non-traditional locations?
I don't see why not. The issue there would be how to do that. We don't have a lot of capacity other than some tables in a few courtyards. They don't hold too many people, so I'm open to just about anything. And then of course there's bugs and heat and all those fun things that we enjoy here in the state of Florida. But I'm open to exploring just about anything that if you think it's going to be safer or healthier. And that the university would approve, and obviously we have to get past them.
Someone else made a comment about wearing masks or face coverings for our maintenance folks. And it looks like they don't have access to those right now.
We're working on that to try to get access. And again, Lisa, put that down, and I'll see if I can get an update in that area. I have not gotten an update on that. Thank you for the question, and then with a comment, and let me see what's going on in that regard.
A couple of other questions related to cleaning classroom computers and projectors. So maybe we can follow up on that too.
Yeah, we'll have to follow up with facilities, and see what they're going to do. The issue is this, though. I mean, if no one's been in your office, again, we've got people that are going to walk through, wait 2 weeks, and then, whatever. Your office should be, if you weren't sick when you left, your office should be pretty clean. But we've already, since when this first started, I asked Patty and a number of people to start looking for vendors that would have materials for cleaning that we could purchase now to have it available whenever we reopen, because we didn't know when we were going to reopen, and there was nothing on that we could get, nothing available. The availability is just, so we have to rely on the university at this point for that. So again, it's a facilities issue, and we'll get an update on what they're planning or what their capacity is. And early on, I can tell you they were being very stingy because they had to take care of health, and so, but that's stingy. They were just protective. And if it was not necessary, they weren't necessarily, no one's providing masks at this point in time, but.
There's been a lot of focus on students and faculty returning in the fall. Does it include staff and administrative employees too? Or are we still expected to work from home through the summer?
Again, no decision has been made on that. And as soon as I know something, you will be informed. I'll get that information out. But to the best of my knowledge, people are being encouraged to stay at home, work from home. The last I saw.
I don't see any other new questions.
Okay, so let me just talk briefly. We have about 15 minutes. Let me talk briefly about what I learned around Dr. Currall. President Currall did address the budget a little bit. Let me give a little more color to that, to his comments. There are two big issues, obviously, that we're waiting on. And the first, of course, is the governor signing the budget. Now, the governor has not asked for the budget yet. And those of you who are familiar with the state of Florida, once a budget is given to the governor signals that he's ready for the budget, he has 30 days then to make a decision on it. He has not signaled that he's ready for the budget. And we believe that he probably won't be for a little while yet. We know that in March, the state lost $750 million in tax revenue, and it's believed that he's going to want to see and it's going to be even worse for April, and he's probably going to want to see that as well as May. So he has to sign it by July 1, and so because there's so much uncertainty there, we don't know what it's going to look like once he gets it and he signs it. The second thing is that what I learned yesterday is that the Board of Governors and the state university system is going to be working together to make a lot of decisions around how cuts will be handled. My understanding is that they are going to play a big role in that. And so we can't get out in front of the governor, and we can't get out in front of the rest of the university system. We know that a couple of universities initially started talking about that they were going to cut, a president cut his salary, this, that, and the other thing happened. But if you've noticed, nothing else has been said since that time. That was squashed. So those are the two things that are really holding everything up. There's no question, in my mind at least, I mean, with the damage this has done to the economy, there's going to be cuts. Where, how, that's what when he was talking about looking at, the where funding currently is, where it may, where we absolutely need to keep it, and where is it flexible, et cetera. So there has been no talk about furloughs. We're still trying to find positions and places for people who lost their jobs early on. Again, we closed dorms and did some other things. So those are the two big issues, though, that are going on, that are going to be happening. But there is a lot of work currently being done behind the scenes. But until we see what the BOG is going to negotiate with the universities and what the governor is going to do. And the other thing, of course, is, I don't know if you saw in the paper, Congress has another $3 trillion relief bill. It has like tens of billions of dollars for universities. But I don't think, what I read this morning is that it's not going to see the light of day. But there still could be other relief that could be proposed in Congress, and we may be able to access. So there's just a lot of variables up in the air. So that's what I know about budget stuff. I did get a little bit of information around for the fall. Our freshman deposits are some of the highest that we've seen, which is a great news. And the quality of the students are high. It's very likely, given our urban area, that students may choose, parents may choose to have their students, their kids start locally and live at home. We don't know what's going to happen with that, but there's going to be some new initiatives that you'll probably be hearing about that I just got a high level view on. One was about a visiting student initiative. Again, maybe students who had planned on going someplace else, but want to do it one semester at USF or already someplace else. But parents are anxious, nervous, and want them to be home, and so they may do a semester with us. We'll have to see what goes on with that. So I would say, and all in all, in terms of the budget, there's likely, keep an eye on the news. It's likely that the governor will reconvene session, and then maybe after that we may see some either more budget negotiations occur or some decisions come out. One other thing in terms of budget that you should know, the university received $34 million. Half of it has to go to students. Those monies are not depleted. So if you're interacting with students who are in a financial crisis, please have them apply for those dollars. Dollars that we don't spend on our students are given back to the government. Right now, there are constraints on how those dollars can be allocated. So I would encourage you, though, that to have students make a case, do their best. Over time, if the dollars aren't being spent, there may be some opening of those constraints. A lot of it is based on the economic, the economics of their family situation, and so we know those things are changing. FAFSA is the primary driver on this, and so there may be some other ways that we can move money into to students. The other half. There have been ideas thrown around. There has been no commitment of those dollars yet to any form of any of the needs that we have. There's been suggestions. There's been rumors. But what I heard last night is that none of that money has been spent because we can't get a clear. None of the universities, not just us. The universities aren't able to get clear direction from the feds on how that can be utilized. So, of course, there's hope that we can backfill the losses in terms of reimbursing students for housing and other things that we had to we had to reimburse. But there's absolutely no guidance yet on how the money can be spent. So you may hear rumors around things, but at this point in time, at least at the present moment, it is a rumor. It could change in 10 minutes if the feds decide that they know how they want it spent. But as of right now, that's where we sit. So let me again stop there and see what questions you might have.
Yeah, we have quite a few more questions. This one's related to in-travel travel in state. Do you know how long USF travel restrictions will be in place?
I asked about that explicitly last night, and the answer I got was no idea.
Will there be antibody testing of faculty and students provided by USF?
So let me back up and say one thing, and I forgot this piece of it because the president came on and I got thrown off. But, you know, when I was talking about the university developing a plan, it's really going to be a 4-staged plan. And we're going to be looking at things like testing availability. We're going to be looking at things like test positive ratios. How many tests, how many positives? We're going to be looking at we're basically going to make the decisions based on science. And so each phase there's clear criteria what has to happen in those phases. And availability, thank you for bringing that up because it brought me back to what I was going to be getting into, but getting that is one of the criteria that we don't know. Will there be availability of that to even test people? And will there be availability of, again, all these other masks and other things that we would need? And so for each stage, there are very clear criteria set and right now we're in basically phase 1. You know, we're still off campus. There's a little bit of movement. There's very strict guidance around that movement, especially around health. And then as these other indices are hit, as positive ratios go down, deaths go down, overall new cases go down, testing becomes more available, we see where we are in terms of vaccines, then those decisions will be made. So that's a part of a larger piece of how this is all going to be, the 4 stages will be managed. Now, let me say that I just got this information literally yesterday, so I didn't have a whole lot of time to digest, and I didn't have a whole lot of time to talk with people. But again, I know that that Tim Boaz is representing BCS and Faculty Senate, obviously, on one committee, and he was able to give us a little more information that I could easily glean from the document that I received. So more on that will come out, but it's a great question. Thanks for asking it.
Another question about pay cuts and furloughs. Is there any update on how possible this might be?
No. There's too many variables, too many balls up in the air. No. And again, if you notice, nobody in the SUS system is talking about it. There's work being done in the background on it to see how big is the deficit going to be and what models and what scenarios might we have to implement. But at this point in time, there's no decision made.
Another question about cleaning. They said the issue isn't the current risk of existing spaces, but the risk going forward.
I see what you're saying. Yeah. Again, facilities is going to have that group that I was talking about. Facilities, they're going to have to address that. That's part of their charge.
Someone mentioned sending out a weekly announcement for positions that are open throughout the summer. So if there are layoffs or budget cuts, people could apply.
Let me talk with Steve Johnson and see how HR is handling that. I would imagine if there are positions open, especially on campus, that they would be posted through HR. That would be, but if there's something we can do to help, I'd be happy to.
If our children have to stay at home due to schools being closed in the fall, will we have the opportunity to continue to work from home as well?
Depending on the nature of your job, I hope so. This is something, again, that we've received no guidance on at all, and that is a big variable in making some of these decisions. Is what does the rest of the community do? Do we have a rebound? Are we shut down again? Does the county shut down again? Do we have another stay at home? You know, do the school, the public schools open? That's, again, we just have no way of knowing that. And so I would think that that would be a big variable in making the decision on what we do on campus.
Should faculty pursue applications for study abroad next year?
Boy, That's geez, I don't know how to answer, be very honest. It's where do they want to go? Right now, if they, want to go to China, I would say it's probably not a good idea. I, I think people should be always thinking about these things. USF World should be coming out and with something around that. I know what they're looking at is trying to find a way to do a virtual study abroad. And I was involved in one conversation around that, but I haven't heard anything since. So I would have students stay, and if they're interested, follow what's going on in the USF World web page. They have updates on there. Contact them, let them know that they're interested. What might they be able to do? In terms of what we've been doing in the college, I just don't know how to think about that. And I'm hoping that the best case scenario is that we go through the summer, we start going about our business a little bit more. People are protecting themselves, and in Florida here, we see a reduction, and maybe we could be thinking about that, but it's going to also depend on what country they want to go to. And so, good questions, people, that I have no answer for.
Someone was asking about where students find information about those funds that are available. I believe they're on the COVID-19 website under the student section, and they've also been getting emails about that.
They have. And
it's been posted pretty widely on social media.
And we can put something out again ourselves in the college and to all of our students to make sure that they know that that's available.
A question about tenure earning faculty. Assistant professors are anxious and appreciate the clock extension. Can an online support group be formed to help support those pursuing tenure and promotion? Maybe the faculty council can help.
I would turn to the faculty council and yes, ask for their their assistance and see what if people are interested. I'm great with that. I think it's a great idea.
Do we think there will be an August graduation?
So the university has talked about that, and certainly if there'll be a invitation provided to the spring class of 2020, but a decision has not been made yet around that. Like the president said, I think probably mid-July is when this, as more information is probably going to start coming out around things like that.
Someone recommended that we add a section to communicate faculty and staff highlights. For example, we could say meet Tim Boaz and what he does and how he's working on all of these issues.
Yeah, this is where not having a communications person in the college really does, it strains us. But I think it's a great idea. We can talk about it in our Dean's Council. There are so many things that I would like to be doing like that. It falls on Patty. It falls on some people in some of the units that pull these things together for us. And so we'd really have to see what we have in terms of capacity. But I'm clearly open to the idea. And the things that you send us, the easiest thing is when you send it to us and we can put it in communique. That's the easiest way that we have without having a communications or marketing person.
I think we covered all the questions.
And it's exactly 11:15. So, so again, I thank you for joining and taking an hour to hear me say, I don't know. At least that's what I feel like I've said most of the time. Again, I appreciate all the work that you've done. We will do our best to keep you apprised of developments. If I think enough has happened, we may do another one if you're open to it this summer. If we think that there's enough that we can bring you up to date on. I know this is your 9-month faculty, you're off. And this would be clearly, if you want to, kind of event. But I'm willing to do whatever it needs to in terms of keeping you informed as these work groups finalize their work and roll it out. So in the meantime, though, please take care of yourselves and your families. Stay well. Keep us informed of what you're doing. Please make sure that those things that you've been doing to help, especially promote students coming back in the fall. Please send to us so we can send them so we can show you off and show others the things that the creative work that you're doing to really help the college. So again, I thank you so much. Enjoy your summer and come back rested and ready to go. So thank you so much.